Hey everyone, welcome to Lachlan Likes a Thing, the show where I take a thing and see whether or not I like it. Now the thing we're looking at in this video is the Sennheiser HD650, which alongside the Beyerdynamic DT880 and the AKG K701 form a kind of triumvirate of open full-sized headphones that have had enduring popularity over the years. I've been meaning to have a listen to the the Sennheiser HD650 for quite some time now, especially because I'm interested to see how it compares alongside my favorite pair of full-sized open headphones, the Sony MA900. And I finally had a chance to borrow this pair, which is my friend Shane's pair, while he borrows my pair of AKG K612s. So let's jump right into the review. Now, in terms of design, I don't think the HD650 is going to win any beauty contests, but it has a solidly built utilitarian design that really speaks to Sennheiser's classic sense of material engineering. So everything is made out of high-strength metals and plastics. It does feel like it's built to last, and most importantly, most of the parts of the HD650 are user serviceable, so you can take them apart, you can clean them, you can replace them, that kind of thing. The cable itself is detachable. It's a 3-meter cable. It's quite supple. It doesn't tangle very easily, which is quite nice. And it terminates in a 6.5 millimeter connector. So you will need to use an adapter to connect it to 3.5 millimeter sources. This is a 6.5 to 3.5 millimeter cable that Sennheiser themselves make. And that's quite nice because it doesn't put any extra weight on the 3.5 millimeter connector. Now, in terms of comfort, as you can tell, the HD650 is an open headphone. It's going to let sound out, it's going to let sound in. Once you've got it on your head, you'll notice that the HD650 has a little higher than average clamping force compared to the Beyerdynamic DT880 or the AKG K612. It's comfortable, but it never quite disappears on my head. And this is a well-used pair, so, this is probably going to be as good as it gets in terms of clamping force. The HD650 is comfortable, it is breathable, but it never quite feels like the pillow on your ear that the MA900 is. Now, before we get into the sound comparison, I just wanted to talk a bit about amplification. Now, the HD650 is rated at 300 ohms, and measurements indicate that at some frequencies it goes up to 500 ohms. But I found out that it is entirely possible to drive the HD650 out of an iPhone 5 as long as you go above 50% volume on the iPhone 5. That does mean that you will get more distortion and that kind of thing, but I actually went and did volume matched listening comparisons between the iPhone 5 and my Objective 2 amplifier, which is a dedicated headphone amplifier which is more than capable of driving the HD650, and I found that there's actually very little appreciable difference in sound between the iPhone and the O2 driving the HD650. Maybe the Objective 2 is cleaner, but that just could be my imagination. So when people say the HD650 scales up with amplification, I can neither confirm nor deny that. But I would have thought that you would have seen a night and day difference between a smartphone and a headphone amplifier, and that hasn't really proven to be the case. Now, in terms of sound, I'll put it out there first. I really, really like the sound of the HD650. It has a really rich, powerful sound with a wonderful sense of authority, especially in the bass. The treble is smooth, but it's textured and it's well extended. A lot of people say the HD650 is veiled or slow, and I don't really agree with this. I mean, sure, it's not going to scratch the inside of your eardrum with treble like the Beyerdynamic DT880 or the AKG, but in terms of tightness and resolution, I feel like this is easily up there with those headphones. The apparent immediate resolution and detail of the HD650 seems less because the treble takes a backseat in the mix, but overall, in terms of actual technical capability, I think the HD650 is very, very competent indeed. One thing about the HD650 is that the warmer tone does mean that the soundstage does feel a little more compressed, a little more intimate than some of the other headphones that it compares to. That might be why some people feel that it is veiled, but in my opinion, it is a really good sounding headphone. Now, I think a really interesting comparison is to my Sony MA900, which is up to now my favorite daily headphone. The two headphones sound somewhat similar. They both have a warm, agreeable tone to them. The HD650 has a tighter sound. It's especially got a more pronounced bass that digs much deeper. It has a better sense of scale and authority in the bass, so especially if you listen to electronic music or that kind of thing, the HD650 performs better. In the treble, I find that the HD650 is a bit more subdued than the MA900, but it's actually more textured and more well extended. And I would say the HD650 overall is the technically superior headphone. The MA900 is a leaner sounding headphone. It's closer to something like the HD600 with more of a mid-bass emphasis. It's got more of a nasal kind of midsection. Overall, the MA900 sounds to me like a more diffuse, less tight, less detailed than the HD650. But the MA900 has one trump card. The MA900 has a really natural, open-sounding soundstage. And that might be because of the design of these angled drivers. So once you've got them on the head, I've often found that the MA900 can give you more of a sense of listening to speakers in front of you compared to the HD650. And overall, just because of the wearing comfort and the more laid-back kind of tone of the MA900, it's a kind of headphone that just is more relaxing to listen to, whereas the HD650 kind of feels a bit more involved, a bit more intimate. So how would I choose between the two? Well, it's really hard for me personally to work out which one I like more, and in my listening tests, over time I found that I actually use them both equally. Sometimes I feel like the HD650 when I want to get a more kind of immediate sound. Sometimes I use the MA900 when I'm just feeling like I don't really want to do anything today except kind of relax and just put this on and kind of can forget that it's on my head. It's especially hard to compare the two, especially because the MA900 is now discontinued, so the price keeps fluctuating. And this morning when I checked the price, it is $216 on Amazon, whereas the Sennheiser HD650 goes for around $350 in terms of street prices. So this is how I would decide between the two. First thing, I wouldn't necessarily want to own both because they kind of fit the same kind of niche in terms of being a warm sounding headphone. If your first priority is absolute resolution and detail and you would prefer more bass, I would go with the HD650. But if you want an all-round, natural, easygoing, and above all, comfortable kind of headphone, I would go for the MA900. And at around $200, I feel like the MA900 is still one of the most underrated, good value headphones on the market. I would say the AKG K612 kind of trumps both of these headphones in terms of absolute value for money. But the kind of nasal or the kind of forward mids on that headphone make it not quite exactly my favorite type of sound. So I've got to say I really love the sound of the HD650 and luckily Shane really likes the sound of the AKG K612, so we're probably going to be making this a permanent swap and I'll let you know if that happens. Anyway, leave a comment if you found this video helpful and please click the like button. A big shout out to all my Patreon backers. We are up to 23 now and that means that I will be making my first order for my first crowdfunded review. I'm probably going to order something like the VSonic VSD S3 or something like the Takstar Pro 80, which you've been asking me about. You can talk to me on Facebook at facebook.com/LachlanLikesAthing or on Twitter at LachLikesAthing. Thanks to all my subscribers and happy listening.